Good morning, everyone. Very good morning. Shall we begin? Today's topic is the chapter number 4, curriculum links. What are the pros and cons? Yes, in the last class we have finished with the chapter number 3. What are the various stages in the planning process? What are the various stages in the career development process? Next part is chapter number 4, curriculum links. So first question arises, is this chapter useful to me or us? Answer is that teacher who would like to know more about the research skills as an integral part of the MOS program of study that should read this chapter, that should fulfill this chapter. And a listing of some of the references to research skills found in the program of study at all grade levels, whether they found interesting, whether they are using the reference skills, whether we are opting for the research skills or not. So there are many reference sources for skill development in the research process in different programs of study, and only a few of these references are included here as example, but these references may be used as by the schools as a starting point, as a meeting point for the developing own research skill continuum. That is either used with the possible skills, that is either used with the starting point, that is either used with the references. So the student will locate the information using the library skills to choose appropriate resources for research. What is appropriate resources that is used for the research? How we can establish them? How we can use them? And then organize the information on a topic. Any topic that is given, so organize the information, relevant information on a topic using a simple outline, webbing, retrieval, chat, and so on. And in a final written product, apply the skills of revising and editing by considering the content, organization, vocabulary, sentence structure, and the mechanics of the writing. The student will also use a computer database to collect and organize information. Collection includes how we can collect the data. There are multiple stages that we have studied in the chapter number 3, as well as organize that information. So uses the computer database to collect and organize that information. And the student will also appreciate the importance of collecting and organizing data. Compare the alternative energy sources. What are the various alternative energy sources? Example, wind, solar cooker, solar energy, nuclear energy. That will also be helpful for organizing, gathering, and involving, interpreting, and infer the effects of the use on the environment. Next is under development at the time of printing, Spring 1990, and the proposed framework is a language learning model in which the students will explore, will construct, will communicate. Then identify the needed information, identify the relationship, then ask questions. What are the various questions that will be defined, that will be used to identify the relevant information? Then locating, this is the junior high program of study. That is locating, selecting, evaluating information are the important life skills. How we can locate, how we can select, and how we can evaluate the information. Then next is listening is also an active process that involves constructing meaning. So whatever the meaning, whatever the constructive data that is occupied, so that will be used for the involvement, that will be used as an active process. Then visual communication possesses distinctive elements and the structures which may also affect the meanings. That is the statement of the content, concept 11. Then effective editing involves revision for the purpose of evaluating ideas and further shaping of the composition. That may be either statement of content, that may be either process skills, that is used with the effective editing, effective skills, effective data, effective evaluation. Then students should be able to evaluate the contribution to the group process. Whatsoever the group process that is used for the evaluating contribution, that should be used, that should be able to communicate, able to evaluate the contribution. The next is students will also able to do the following: obscure or observe. So let's start again. In terms of social studies, that is 1989, the student will able to do the following. First of all, he or she observe the courses of the group discussion, contribute to the group, that is a participation skill. So that must be participated, that must be used in the participation. Yes, that is also a leadership style. Then the student will also acquire the information to find the answers to the questions through listening, through observing, through reading, and utilizing the time, utilizing the resources, community resources, we can say. That is known as the process skills. So first is the participation skill, second is the process skill, and then identify and define the topic, identify the possible outcomes, what are the various possible outcomes that is identified, what is the main location of using the possible outcomes, that is also a process skills. Then compare the information. If there are two relevant information, compare them, and which is very useful information. So compare the information about the topic drawn from two or more sources, categorize them. Yes, divide them to develop the concept. That is also a process skill. Then next is the grade 7 science. So overall strategy for the decision making includes the skills of researching perspectives, organizing and processing the information, and evaluating. How we can research the perspectives, how we can organize the information, how we can process the information, how we can evaluate the information. So these are the various understanding, these are the various elementary programs of study in which the student will participate in terms of the environment, in terms of the appropriate resources. How they organize, how they use the outlining, how they use the webbing, how they use the retrieval chart. And at last, there is organizing of the information on a topic using a simple outline, webbing, research, or the retrieve chart, and so on. And in a final written product, there should be an application that should apply the skills of revising and editing by concentrating the content organization, vocabulary, sentence structure, and the mechanics of the writings. Whatsoever the mechanics, criteria, whatsoever the rules, regulation of the mechanics, syntax that will be used in a computer database, that should be used in a computer files to collect and organize the information. And the student will also appreciate how they collect the data, how they represent the data. Yeah, collecting includes either interviews, surveys, presentation, whatever the mode, whatever the tool they are using out. But the main target is to appreciate the importance of collecting and organizing the data. Then compare the alternative energy resources, example solar energy, wind energy, nuclear energy. Then gather, organize, and interpret the data. And infer the effects of use on the environment. Then next is under development at the type of printing, that is Spring 1990, and this proposed framework is a language learning model in which the students will explore, student will construct, student will communicate. Identify the needed information, identify the relationship, also ask the questions about the review process. But the main thing is that overall strategy for the decision making is that how they affect or how they use the respective or skills of the respective or researching perspectives, organizing and processing the information and evaluating. The next is the senior high program of study, that is a high level of the study. So that includes locating, selecting and evaluating the written materials frequently required to fulfill one's purpose in reading are most important or more important life skills. How they locate, how they select, and how they evaluate the written material. how frequently these material will be required to fulfill the one's purpose in reading, that are also the one of the important life skills. Then listening is an active, not a passive process. This is one of the main point. Then you can listen as well as hear. That is, it is an active process, not a passive process. Passive process includes how you modify. You only hear means you cannot listen. You also don't want to listen. That is the active and the passive process. Then an effective reader is able to select and uses a variety of the information, variety of the reading strategies appropriate to this purpose. Then effective revision involves careful planning, careful evaluation of the ideas, and a further shaping of the compositions. So effective revision must be done. Effective revision must involve by the careful evaluation, how we can evaluate the things with the ideas and also further shaping of the composition. Then students will also develop the skills and the strategies or techniques in the personal decision making and the interpersonal relationship. Whatsoever the personal relationship, whatsoever the personal decisions that will be used to develop the skills and the strategies, skills and the techniques. Then next is science, that is questioning, proposing ideas, gathering data, processing data, and interpreting data are all components of the process skills and the framework. And students will be expected to generate, they will be used to generate or demonstrate an ability to classify the existing information. How we can classify what is the existing information that will be used by examining the parts and the relationship to identify and differentiate the components, attributes, claims, and assumptions or reasons, by interpreting the data or information, by judging the reliability or validity of the data or the information, by identifying the errors, distinguish between the facts and the values, policy and the procedures, relevant and the irrelevant information, then identify the main ideas, what is the main idea behind this, what is the main idea behind that, then identify the attributes and the components, relationships and the patterns, identify the perspectives, what's your perspective, what your thought, then detecting the biasness and the inconsistency in the line of the reasoning. And the student will also analyze the personal responses to the visual imagery. And the next is the Alberta education programs of study. So first is focus on the research. Stage 1 is planning. Then social studies, science, mathematics, language arts. So in planning, understanding the question, problem, develop the research questions and the procedures, identify the issues, identify the alternatives, then understand the problem. Then stage 2 is information retrieval. Gather and organize the information, how we can gather the information, how we can organize. Gathering means collecting, organizing means dividing into the multiple criteria. Then next is in the science, there's the research, then information processing. Includes, yes, the same stages that we have discussed. Processing includes how we can interpret the information, develop a conclusion or the solutions or the synthesizes the information, reflect and decides, develop a plan for understanding the problem. So how we can interpret, how we can use the relevant information, how we can develop a conclusion or the solution of the synthesized data. Then next is how we can reflect, how we can decide. Then stage number 4 is information sharing. That is how we can communicate effectively. Communication is very much important in the social studies, science, mathematics. The next is take action. How we can take the action, then carry out the plan. How the information will be gathered, how it is shared, how we can carry out the plan. The next stage is the evaluation. How we can evaluate the decision and the process. Which decision is better one, which decision or which criteria is much more taken out for the decision and the process. The next is evaluate and look back. Look back in the mathematics. That is also evaluation. That means look back whether you are dealing with the corrective material, whether you are dealing with not the corrective material, either there is a mistake of the addition, subtraction. So stage 1 is planning, stage 2 is information retrieval, information processing, sharing, evaluation. That depends on the subject, that is either social science, science or the mathematics. In this, yes, only 3 subjects are focused on. So if I'm talking about the processing, in the social science, it is said that it interpret the information, develop a conclusion or solution, synthesize the information. Then in the science, it is reflecting and decide. Then it is in mathematics, it's used for developing a plan. Or develop a plan, develop a strategy. And in case of the science, when we say about the information processing, in only this there is the reflect and the decide. And in mathematics, develops a plan strategy for the group discussion. So these are the stages, and along with a few subjects that helps to create the Alberta education programs of study. That helps to create on enhance or use the Alberta program. Then next is relating the research skills to the 4 core academic curricula. That is a note, includes the 1990 amendments, language arts under the development, spring 1990. So these are the few Alberta program of study, and these are the relevant for the chapter number 5. That is how we can interpret the resources, material, that is before the research, teacher's preparation. So till now, any doubts, anyone? In this grade 7 science, in the language arts, in the program study, social science. So this chapter mainly focus on the research skill, that is program at each and every level of the study, either mathematics, social science, language arts. Then what are the various junior high program of the study? Yeah, these are the effective leading guidelines also, that is involved for the purpose of evaluating the ideas and further shaping of the competitions. And overall strategy for the decision making should also be developed for the skills of the researching perspectives. Then in the senior science or senior high program of study, it is used in the reading as well as the life skills. In case of questioning, proposing ideas, gathering information, data, processing data, interpreting the framework, that are also the components of the process skills in the framework. That is also one of the category of the student skill that is also used for developing the skills and techniques